So, as Akbar said this morning, I'll be sharing my testimony. And a way I made it, and to me, sharing my testimony is a lot more scary than preaching, to be honest. Um, and Grace can confirm, I have a tendency to over-explain. So I helped that out a little bit today with just really highlighting 3 key days in my life that changed my life. And so, starting off, I'm just going to fidget a lot, so don't mind me. Starting off, growing up, I didn't grow up in a Christian home. Most of my family were alcoholics, praise the Lord. About only half of them now, but praise the Lord, the other half isn't as much anymore. And so growing up, I remember Friday, I told my brothers, I'm going to share my testimony Sunday. What would you say our life was growing up? They kind of laughed at me and said, well, it's a little chaotic. And I can definitely sum it up pretty well. Growing up, it was pretty common for parties and drinking every night. My family, not me, but my family doing so. And me being young at 10 years old, this was my norm. This was annoying for me. And between fights with my dad and my mom, my dad and my older siblings, it was always chaos. Always something happening in my own home. And something I couldn't get away from. And growing up in this environment, eventually, like I said, at 10, I did take a stand. I told my parents that if this keeps happening, I'm going to disown you. That's what my brother said I said. I don't remember it, but he remembered laughing in the background, he said, when he heard it. And so after that, it got a little better, but nonetheless, it was a nightly event. And I remember at that time trying to take care of my mom as much as I could. She became an amputee. She was missing one leg. And in that process, in and out of hospitals, in and out of nursing homes, just trying to be there and feeling like I was the glue of the family. I kept my dad from going too far. I kept my brothers from fighting each other too much. I felt like at a young age, I was the glue that held us together. And having this pressure on me, I felt depressed. I felt anxious. I felt like it was all on me, that I couldn't mess up, otherwise everything would mess up. And how I got involved with church, well, I had a friend, Jay Sean Williams. He went to GBS with me. We're still best buddies this day. I believe that's us at his wedding. You guys know. But yeah. So, and he's close to my family, still is to this day, praise the Lord. He's a big impact with my family to this day. And he would constantly go up to my house, knock on my door, to ask me, hey, you want to come to church? Hey, you want to come to church? Every Sunday after Sunday, Wednesday after Wednesday, he wouldn't stop, even to the point where I would hide on my bunk bed, under my covers, pretend I'm sleeping. And he would just come in and drag me out. Just, come, let's go. You ready to go? And that just continually happened. I wouldn't say it happened enough for me to be regular at a church, but it happened somewhat. And this takes us to the first day that I want to share. June 15th, 2016. Leading up to this, my mom was in hospital again for pneumonia a couple months before this, and she went into a coma. And in that coma, she was in the coma for about 3 weeks or so, if I remember right. And miraculously, I guess when I held her hand, she woke up to me saying, I love you. It's weird, I don't know, but praise the Lord. And then 7 months after this, she went back. She caught pneumonia again. And I remember me and my cousin, we saw her the night before. She was doing great. She was fantastic. They were planning a discharge the next day. But over the night, they laid her down flat, which made blood surge to her heart. And then, sadly, a bit too far gone by the time. I remember waking up that morning. I was up late the last night. I remember waking up that morning to 50 missed calls because I'm a heavy sleeper. So I missed 50 missed calls, my dad shaking me frantically, and everything was a blur. I remember going to the truck, my dad's speeding over to the hospital. I'm getting to the hospital, and everyone crammed up in the small white room that fits about 3 or 4 people, and 12 of us in there, crammed together. They give me the rundown of what's happening. They tell me how my mom's in critical condition, that she's on life support right now, and that they're thinking about pulling the plug. Everyone looked over at me because somehow I got to wake up last time, so let's try it again. That's what they thought. So I was like, all right, I'll go. So I remember walking into the room where she was at, holding her hand. That was freezing, cold hand. And I remember looking over around everyone, looking at my mom. Sorry for getting emotional. That's right. Looking at my mom and knowing it was too late. And then we all went back to a small little room that fits about 3 or 4 people, with 12 of us crammed up in there. They looked at us and our brothers, asking, do we want to pull the plug? I remember that moment that one brother said yes, one brother said no, and then all eyes on me. I remember that moment looking at my dad and just looking around, not knowing what to do, not wanting to pull the plug on my own mom, not wanting to make the choice. But I knew what was best. And we decided to let her rest. And in that moment, afterwards, I remember brief bits and pieces of it. I remember everyone just sobbing. I remember telling myself, that's on me. I have to hold us together. And so from that moment, I showed nothing. I didn't cry. I held it up, hugged my brothers, hugged my family. I love you, I'm here. And from that moment, I was empty. And so from then, the next couple of years, I was living with my dad, living with my brothers, jumping back and forth, and just trying to be everywhere the best I could, but also trying to be on my own as well, best I could. In the month after that, I tried to cut everyone off, try to have space, and like a normal person would, they gave me space. They quit texting, quit calling, which is an okay thing. It's good to give space. But one person kept coming back. One person kept calling, kept texting, kept checking, even when I wanted him to stop. Jay Sean. He kept coming over to my house, calling me, texting me, saying, hey, we have this youth camp coming up. Hey, there's this youth camp. You should come. And I would just, I gave in. I was like, all right, I'll go. And the process of that, scrounging for money was a difficult thing because my family, we had the most highest income and we used all the money on a funeral. And so I think I got $10. And then he isn't up here. I couldn't find a good enough picture of him. But Mike, my old youth pastor, Mike Marriott, he said I could pay the rest. And at that youth camp, I remember the Monday night shenanigans, tug of war, and all that stuff. But Tuesday night service was the first time that I really learned who God was. I felt the presence of God. I wouldn't say I was saved at youth camp, but I learned who he truly was, that there was a God who loves me, that knows me. And through that, I remember how I left that youth camp and I wasn't sure what to do. I was like, well, there's this thing over here, but I kind of want to keep trying my own way. I don't want to go through that yet. I don't want to open up that baggage yet. And so for the next 2 years, I did my own thing. I went in relationships I shouldn't have been in. Praise the Lord, protected me from a lot, from drugs and all that other stuff. Praise the Lord, He protected me from that because I would have been nasty. But I did my own thing. I kept trying my own way. And this could take us to the second day in my life. The youth camp thing was the second day of my life, which was July 22nd, I believe. 19th, close. Then the third day. The third day my life changed forever. I can't tell you the exact day because it was one random late night. Sometime in April, towards the end of April. And towards the end of April, I think I just got out of another terrible relationship, and I was just at the end of my rope. I was empty, exhausted, and nothing I was doing this past 2 years was not working. I was trying to fill this hole in my heart, fill this emptiness with anything, something. But nothing worked. Nothing would work. And so I remember sobbing on my air mattress in my dad's apartment, just crying out to God. Well, crying first to myself and just thinking, I have no purpose. What am I doing? What am I doing? I don't have anything to really live for. And from that, the second time in my life, I had the thought pop in my head, I should just kill myself. I had that thought for the second time. The first time was much younger, much different time. And that hit me. It made me realize where I am. It made me realize that whatever I'm trying is not working. And that I can't rely on my own way. I can't rely on what I do, what I can suffice, what I can try to fill temporarily. But I have to try God's way. And it wasn't anywhere pretty. It wasn't in the church or anything on a pew. It was on an air mattress in a one-bedroom apartment that I gave my life to Christ. That I repented of my sins and received Him in my life. And it wasn't an overwhelming, boom, everything's fixed. But God's worked with me. God worked on me. In that moment, I felt peace, and the next day, what do? I started consistently going to church again. And this time we didn't have a youth pastor quite yet, but I was going. I was trying to understand what to do. And about a couple months later, the guy on the left, Josh Cravens, he came. He was my new youth pastor. He took me under his wing, and he showed me what it meant to be a man of God. He taught me my devotional life, prayer life. He taught me all of that. He took me out. He played such a heavy influence in my life. And then from that point on, I was growing. All the wounds, all the scars, they were still there. God was still working with me. But God was working. And from then on, when I was 17, I got my call to preach, and I didn't want it, not at all. I remember hiding it for 6 months. Eventually, on the walk home from Wendy's, I told my best friend Jay, we worked together as well, that would be pretty cool to do. I wonder if I could do that sort of thing. And I told myself, no, but I probably can't. I have a speech impediment. I can't pronounce John 3:16 right. I can't say word. I probably can't. But over time, God kept working. God kept helping me build my confidence in myself, more than just in myself, but in Him, that I can rely on Him and lean on Him. When I can't do it, I can lean on Him. And here we are at college. I took a whole gap year because I wasn't sure what to do, where to go. So I didn't want to do this, but at that time, and there I was at college, my freshman year. First semester, it was great, it wasn't bad. Second semester, I had a really close friend I went to college with, and he left. The friend group I made, that first semester, they all left. It was a terrible coincidence that they all left. And then again, I felt alone. Felt like I had no one. Felt like it was just me. Jay was still there, but he had his own friend group. We're still close friends and everything, best friends. But to me, I just felt alone in that moment. And after that, in the summer, I made a choice. and I got an opportunity at my home church in Finley to preach. And I was like, Lord, I'm going to do it, but if I feel like this isn't good enough, Lord, I need you to help me experience something this time. I need you to help me know that I can do this. Maybe I won't be too bad. And at that time, after that sermon, I was like, man, I did pretty good. Now looking back, it's okay. But at that time, it felt pretty good. It's like, all right, Lord, I can do this. And from then on, I quit skipping classes all the time. I quit not studying at all or not doing any assignments. I started actually doing the things I needed to do. Dr. Bird can attest to this for sure. I was in a few of his classes freshman year and sophomore year. And God was working with me. God was working on me. And then on, here I am, where God is helping me reach out to other people in my life, reach out to people back home, reach out to people at the school, be a mentor to them. Be in the same position these two, if count PM2, Pastor Mike Marriott, be in the same position they all were to me. My story is unique, and God gave me a lot of grace in my life and helped me so very much, and just so faithful to me, so loving, caring. And my story is unique, but friends, the God, our Creator, looked at me, Devon, I can use your story. Just how he can look at Grace, say, Grace, I can use your story. Dr. Bird, Pastor Mike, I can use your story. Carissa, I can use your story. And as we're about to hear now from Pastor Don, he can use his story. And he's going to give us a good example of that and a good illustration about his story now.